This episode brought to you by Cafe Imports, Minneapolis-based importers of fine specialty green coffees. Independently owned and operated since 1993, Cafe Imports has been dedicated to decreasing its impact on the earth through renewable energy, carbon neutrality, and by supporting conservational efforts in places where quality coffee is grown and also where quality coffee is consumed. Where does your coffee come from?
And by the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation. As a nonprofit, we rely on support from listeners like you. If you like what you hear, please consider a donation. To learn more and make a gift, visit us at www.gosuperior.org.
Welcome to the Lake Superior Podcast. I'm Walt, Lindala.
And I'm Frida, Waara. We are made stronger by story, and there's no better source than the continent's largest body of fresh water, Lake Superior.
So join us as we highlight the 5 national parks that ring this greatest of the Great Lakes, meet the people, tour the places, and learn about the projects that make these parks and body of water so remarkable.
This podcast made possible with the support of the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation and Media Brew Communications.
I'm Walt Lindala.
And I'm Frida, Waara.
Welcome once again to the Lake Superior Podcast. Today, Frida, we have a returning guest, which will be a lot of fun. We're talking with Anna Deschampe, who is Chief of Interpretation at Grand Portage National Monument, and it's nice to have her back on, but you're looking at this from a somewhat historical perspective, aren't you?
You know, Walt, I love to kayak. I love to paddleboard. Have you ever canoed on Lake Superior?
A long time ago, yeah. I have. Yes.
To me, it's really scary. It's really scary. I mean, that's an open, body of water with all kinds of waves and all kinds of. But we talk a lot about the mining industry, and we go back to the fur traders. So long before there were 1,000-foot freighters on Lake Superior, there were guys out there in canoes, and they were all a part of the fur trade. And there is no better place to learn about that beginnings on Lake Superior. And certainly there were many, many beginnings before that. But in our history, we have to go way up north, the very tippy top of Minnesota, right there at the Canadian border. And we're at the Grand Portage, if I'm going to say it right, if I'm a canoer. And that's the Grand Portage National Monument. And that's where Anna works. And boy, oh boy, we're so glad to have her with us today.
Yeah, welcome back to the podcast, Anna. And let's talk a little bit about it. I mean, you're Chief of Interpretation. First of all, what does that really mean? And then obviously with a busy summer ahead, you've got some things going on. What's the latest?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is my job? What does it mean to be in charge of interpretation? So essentially, the division here in Grand Portage is the division of interpretation, education, and volunteers. So I am the manager of that division, and I work basically as a member of an incredibly dedicated team who all work together to provide really high-quality experiences for those who come to the monument for the first time, second time, or even the 100th time. We develop meaningful learning opportunities and work to facilitate really special connections between people and this place.
Okay, so obviously you've got some projects you're working on, including the rendezvous. What is that?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
That's a wonderful French word. I love that French word.
What do you got going on?
So the rendezvous. The rendezvous here at Grand Portage National Monument is part of the annual rendezvous within the Grand Portage community or the tribal nation of the Grand Portage Band. So the annual rendezvous at Grand Portage National Monument begun as community members, Park Service employees, staff from Fort William Historic Site, our sister site across the border, and area enthusiasts came up with the idea, hey, let's dress up in some fur trade garb, do some canoe races, let's play some games that all date back to the day of the Voyager. So during that same time, a local powwow was held, and that really, those two events together ended up creating this weekend of celebration throughout Grand Portage.
So for someone that perhaps isn't familiar with this idea, you mentioned a powwow and then you have the rendezvous. Can you give us a little bit of differentiation between the two of those events?
Sure. So the Grand Portage National Monument Rendezvous really mimics, recreates, reenacts what was happening here in history during the time of the fur trade. So during the 1790s, the rendezvous is in full swing here in Grand Portage. And rendezvous, what does that mean? It means people coming together, right? So over 1,000 people were working, hanging out, spending time here in Grand Portage within the Palisades and within the surrounding area. So this rendezvous is inspired by this time, and it provides a really unique view into the hustle and bustle of Grand Portage over 220 years ago. So the Grand Portage Rendezvous Days is a community-wide celebration weekend where friends and family return year after year, and they attend and participate in events held in the community. So the powwow is held just up the road from the National Monument within the community's powwow grounds, and it's put on by the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior Chippewa.
Okay.
You underline experiences. That's what I just love when you were just from the get-go, Anna. What is it that you would experience coming to the rendezvous?
Yeah, absolutely. So when people come to the rendezvous, you are going to basically experience all sorts of things, whatever you're interested in, really. So here at the monument, we have usually over 200 reenactors. And what does that mean when somebody is a reenactor? So it means they are dressing up as a person that was living during the fur trade, and during that weekend, living and acting as if they were in that period of time. So we have people coming up here with all sorts of super cool skills and abilities, like tinsmithing, blacksmithing. We have different workshops. So some of the workshops that we have include making cornhusk dolls for kids, Voyager action figures, making stools, doing scavenger hunt. We do a historic camp tour. There's live music. There's dancing. And then we have all sorts of games and things like this that visitors can watch. So there's a great lacrosse match. There's a rugged Voyager contest. And then to start it all off, here within the monument, we have an opening drum ceremony, and that features the Stonebridge Singers.
Okay.
So this is very cool because the Stonebridge is a historic bridge within the park here, right? And so this local drum group, who were young boys at the time, they got together and they said, we want to start a drum group, and we're calling ourselves the Stonebridge Singers because we like to hang out at the Stonebridge. And so now they're grown, they have kids of their own, and they still come back year after year and lead this opening drum ceremony for us here.
We are talking with Anna Deschampe, who is Chief of Interpretation at Grand Portage National Monument, a lot about the rendezvous. Does the rendezvous usually, Anna, have a theme? And if so, what is it this year?
We do. Every year we have a theme, which makes it, I think, really exciting and fresh for people who like to come back year after year. So this year's theme is the Northwest Company Looks West. So historically, the Northwest Company and the Grand Portage Trail opened the West for exploration and profit. So this year, several of our events and workshops focused on what was learned during that time and the differences reflected by the new landscapes that were encountered in the journey across the continent.
Now, when is it this year for this season?
Yeah, this year the rendezvous at Grand Portage National Monument is August 11th and 12th. The Rendezvous Days powwow and celebration is August 11th through 13th. So while our event will not be happening on Sunday, the powwow will be happening on Sunday still.
How do I get? Do I have to buy a ticket? How does this? How can I get my family to participate?
Yeah, this is all free. So that's what's really exciting about this is all free. So you can just come anytime you like, come how you are. We do have a schedule of events that's posted on our website, which is www.nps.gov/GRPO, which will have the schedules of the different workshops and activities that are happening. But no, we are open, our Heritage Center, from 9:30 to 5:30 every day, and we just invite everybody to come and participate.
I have to share, I went to the Heritage Center last fall. I came through, and that's also when I saw the George Morrison display. It was so wonderful. That is such a special place. And to walk your grounds, I mean, of course, we want people to come and participate in the rendezvous and to witness the powwow. I mean, right. When I just think about the Stonebridge Singers, that just gave me goosebumps. I just feel that when we look back at what the 1790s were to the history of our beautiful blue out there and knowing the ruggedness of the voyageurs. Was the rendezvous held historically also in August?
Yeah, so by historically, I'm assuming that you mean back, in the 1790s. So really what the rendezvous kind of shows is a more extended period of time during the summertime when everybody would be here in Grand Portage, right? You would have folks coming from Montreal. You would have folks coming from the interior, from the inland lakes and waterways and fur trading posts. And at some point during the summertime, depending on the weather, you would have a lot of people here in Grand Portage, but it just wouldn't be for a weekend. It would be a more extended period of time. So we take this weekend, and what we do is recreate that hustle, that bustle, that energy, that bringing of people together within that period of time.
You mentioned to us somewhat of the idea of where it came from and how this got started, but how long has this been going on, and has it changed and evolved over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first rendezvous was hosted in 1972.
Okay.
And since then, it's been an annual event. We did take 2 years off due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So last year was actually our first year back from that, and we were really excited to see the event return. So we currently have 217 reenactors that are registered for this year's event, which is absolutely incredible. And in terms of it changing over the years, it has changed over the years. And as we all know, everything changes over time, right?
Sure.
So most significantly, it's increased in participation from when it began. It started out as more of a small group of people. And as I said, with over 200 registered reenactors, that has really grown in size. So we don't do some of the things that used to be done in the 70s and 80s, like climbing a grease pole on the dock or throwing hatchets or any of those types of things that aren't necessarily safe from our perspective anymore. But one thing that we have changed this year that's a little bit different than prior years is that all of our activities are going to be out on Friday and Saturday, whereas in the past they've been on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we did this, but we were able to do it without decreasing any content, any activities, any workshops. We just made an adjustment based on visitation and traveling trends to really improve the event. So the powwow, as I said, still continues through Sunday, but from my perspective, despite any ways that the event has and eventually will change, its spirit really remains consistent with what it always has been, which is people coming together once a year to connect with friends, to connect with family, loved ones, and to have a good time, learn from one another, and celebrate the connections that we have with this really special place, Gitchiona-Gaming or Grand Portage.
Anna, 217 reenactors. I'm trying to think, first of all, how do you gather that many people, and where are all those costumes? Holy moly, macanoli.
Yeah, that's so that's the number of people that will be setting up camp. And in essence, what they are is they're really volunteer for the park. The historic encampment is open for the public during the same hours that the monument is open for people to walk around and interact and ask questions with all of these great, wonderful, and talented people.
And when you talk about the instructors, well, first of all, do you have a favorite course? I mean, when I was there and I saw how you bake bread in that outdoor kind of a brick oven there, it wasn't even brick. It was just really cool. I mean, that would be something I would love to see. But, a bull boat, that was new to me too.
Yeah, the bull boat, and that is new to me too. And if you ask me about a favorite, I think my answer would be that there are a lot of things that we do year after year that become everybody's favorite. I mean, the lacrosse match is amazing. The Rugged Voyager contest, they're all really fun. But the really exciting thing about Rendezvous are these new presenters and experiences that we bring in every year. So one of those is bull boat building. And so over the course of the weekend, we will be building a bull boat, and it's actually going to be launched into Lake Superior at the end of the weekend. So, and a bull boat, you know, for those who aren't familiar, what that is in areas where birch trees didn't grow, so there wasn't an emphasis on making birch bark canoes. The hide from a bison would be used to make a canoe. Okay. So, or not a canoe, I'm sorry, but a boat. So we're going to make one of these small bull boats over the weekend.
How in the world they might have tried to steer a bull boat? That it's kind of like a saucer. Did you ever go down a ski hill on a saucer? And then you're thinking about you're going to put that out on Lake Superior and, rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub. But I'm sure that's part of what you'll learn. And the kids, the moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, aunts and uncles, everybody participating. That just sounds so much fun.
Yeah.
We're talking with Anna Deschampe here today, who is Chief of Interpretation at Grand Portage National Monument along the Lake Superior shoreline. And, Anna, one of the things I remember with talking with you before, and if I could ask you to touch on it a little bit, when you're talking a lot about this historic interpretation, this education and whatnot, there's also a strong component of the indigenous peoples in the area there that you are not only just referencing them, you are intertwined with them. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works from the National Monuments perspective?
Sure. Well, we are, a lot of us working here are them, right? So we are a co-managed national monument, a unit of the National Park Service that's located right in the middle of tribal lands, the Grand Portage Tribal Nation. So with our co-management, what that means is that we work side by side and in tandem with the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. We are right nestled within the community, so engaging with the community and making sure that the Grand Portage people have a space to tell their story with authenticity and from their perspective is very, very important. And to also care for these park lands. It's a really, really cool opportunity for the community here to co-manage a national park and really work together with all of the resources that the National Park Service provides, with all of the resources that the Grand Portage Band is able to provide to create a really great experience.
Anna, can you share with our listeners, I'm guessing if the Rendezvous started in 1972, and I know you're not that old, but you must have grown up with this being an annual event in your life and in your family. Share with us a little bit about how you come, when you use that word authenticity, you know what this is all about.
Yeah, I mean, authenticity, what that means is that you're being true to yourself and you're being true to your heart, right? So if you're going to be sharing with people and being open with people, that's where it's got to come from, is a place within you. And actually, I was talking to one of my family members last year, and they were talking about how excited they were that we were going to be having the Rendezvous event again last summer after that hiatus from COVID.
Sure.
Because our event here at the monument always starts a day before the powwow, right? So how they shared it with me is they said, as soon as we see those tents going up, as soon as we see those reenactors, and as soon as we see you guys moving and we can smell all the smoke from the fires, we know the powwow is coming next. And that is always, the start of the weekend is when we get everything going and moving. And so really, it is a real component of what goes on here during the weekend. And you talk about, we as the National Park Service, we hold our reenactment event, and the Grand Portage Band holds the powwow, right? And they're two separate events, if you will, but really from the perspective of people here in Grand Portage and people who love to come to this Rendezvous Days weekend, I think they see a weekend of celebration with two entities really working together and creating an experience.
So, Anna, if somebody does want to come to this, is there a need to make reservations? Maybe they want to take part in the rendezvous, like with the workshops and things. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so the workshop tent opens at 9 a.m. every day of the event. So if you're interested in signing up for a workshop, the workshop tent, or the registration tent, will be located outside of the North Gate down by the stockade, and it's a first come, first serve. So you sign up on the day of the workshop for the workshop that you're interested in. Now, if you're interested in doing the reenacting part of it and the camping over the weekend, so that is a registration process that we open in the spring, and that's kind of on a space available basis because we only have enough room for a certain number of camps, right? So if you're interested in doing that into the future, look at our website because we do post it on there when we are opening registrations, and then there's contact information on how to learn more to do that.
And the website again for folks is?
It's nps.gov/GRPO.
Which, of course, is also a good place to find out a little bit more about Grand Portage National Monument because perhaps people can't make it to the rendezvous in August. What kind of information do you have there for folks to check out?
Yeah, we've been actually working really hard on our website over the past couple of years, and we have quite a bit of information. We have some information about our museum collections, about the activities that we're doing. If you're interested in taking in a program on a weekend that is not Rendezvous Days, or to see what we have scheduled for our events, that gets put on our events calendar. And then we also have articles about different things of interest. Like, for example, in anticipation of Rendezvous Days, we developed an article or some web content about what are bull boats, what do they do. We're having, in the fall, we're having a special speaker by the name of Craig Blacklock, and he is presenting a lecture called Light Waves, Abstract Photographs of Reflections of Lake Superior. And so we are currently working on an article that's more about, his photography and who he is and what he does. So along with events and educational programming that we have, we work really hard to make sure to provide additional context and resources to learn more on our website.
Anna, I got to ask you this, and we're talking with Anna Deschampe, who is Chief of Interpretation at Grand Portage National Monument, talking about the Rendezvous Days coming up in August, but also just the National Monument in and of itself. Here's the chance to make the pitch. Why should I come there? Why should someone that's listening take the effort to come? If they can't make it to the Rendezvous Days, at least make the journey to Grand Portage National Monument.
Right, absolutely. So Grand Portage, in my mind, in my heart, is one of the most special places that you could visit. So our national monument here is located right on the shores of Lake Superior. So we have two hiking trails within our park, a Mount Rose hiking trail, which is shorter but provides excellent views of the Grand Portage Bay, as well as the 8.5-mile Grand Portage Trail. We have a heritage center and a historic depot where we always have things going on. We have historic gardens here. We've got interpretive staff that just love to share the story of this really, really special place.
Anna, you are also, let's go back. We know as Chief of Interpretation, there's nobody better for that job because you grew up right there. And you are also a member of the Grand Portage Band of the Anishinaabe, correct?
That is true, yeah.
So your family history, when you use the word weave, it's a pretty tight knit, I'm guessing, for the information that you're sharing and the experiences that you're creating.
Yeah, I mean, It is. I am a member of the Grand Portage Band here. I was born and raised here in Grand Portage, and like I said, the National Monument has always been a part of our community fabric here. So, just thinking back, both of my grandfathers, for example, worked in the maintenance division here at Grand Portage National Monument. So it's really cool for me to see how we have grown over the years. And of course, we as individuals grow. So you grow from having a child's perspective to an adult's perspective. But the development of this national monument in terms of its co-management relationship with the Grand Portage Band is something that is just so, so special throughout the entire country. Every park has its special things and its special places. And that collaboration is really one of ours. And, we have here within this park so many staff members that are so dedicated and have been here for such a long time because they come here and they just love this place. And, some of those staff members are here from the community, some of them are not, but really the common thread is just a real passion for the place of Grand Portage and working to make this the best park that it can be. And I think it's pretty great. And when you look back to our rendezvous here, when I talk about the growth of the event in terms of participation and the numbers of workshop activities and all of this type of thing, one of the great successes of this event really comes from the consistency with, some of our long-term staff members. We've got a couple of rangers here, Carl Koster and Steve Veit, and they really have developed such strong relationships with, the community of reenactors. When you ask how do we recruit folks to come help us out for this weekend, it's through relationship building, and that relationship building is something that transcends whatever activity you're doing, whatever you're trying to accomplish. If you can build strong relationships and maintain those relationships, that's how you do it. That's the answer.
Anna Deschampe with us here today, who's Chief of Interpretation at Grand Portage National Monument. Again, remind the folks when the rendezvous days are and how they can find out some more information.
Absolutely. Grand Portage National Monument will have its rendezvous event on August 11th and 12th here in Grand Portage. The website for Grand Portage National Monument is nps.gov/GRPO. And while you're here, the Grand Portage Rendezvous Days celebration, which includes our event at the National Monument, as well as a powwow hosted by the Grand Portage Band, a walk run along Grand Portage Bay, softball tournaments, and all sorts of other activities happens from August 11th through August 13th.
Boy, as always, Anna, good chatting with you. I could tell it is important to you. I mean, we've had the opportunity through this podcast to talk with a lot of folks at the national parks and some of the related things around Lake Superior, and we always hear a passion, a love for it, and that really comes through with you with this conversation. That is for sure.
I believe you were born for your job and for your role to tell this story.
Well, thank you. I do my best, but honestly, I'll say it again. I've got a team of people here that make my job fun and make my job worthwhile. They're amazing at what they do, so I can't take the credit here.
Part of the team.
We're going to give it to you, that's for sure, girl. But
right.
Oh wow, so much fun.
So we'll talk with you again sometime soon on the podcast. Thanks for your time.
All right, absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for calling.
That's Anna Deschampe, who is Chief of Interpretation at the Grand Portage National Monument. And, it's always a pleasure to talk with her about these things going on there. But really the connection came through, I think, in terms of her family, her history, the region, the area, and then wanting to share information about it, too. It's one thing to have that connection. It's really another thing. And Anna's a great example of this, being willing to share it and to learn from it.
Walt, we talk a lot about the type A personalities. I am going to label Anna a type E personality. And that E is for education, energy, and experience.
There you go.
She is the real deal.
Mm-hmm. And without, this kind of information and this interpretation, it wouldn't connect, I think, with people. Like she mentioned, a lot of times the people that come there like to come back and they want to stick around, or those that come to work there stay there for a long time. That's a credit to the energy of the monument and the area and the big lake. We can't certainly sell that short because that moves a lot of people. So it was always a pleasure to talk with her.
And it's a wonderful hike, that 8.5 mile Portage trail that they have. But even if you just make it up to that Mount Rose and you look over, it is a timeless view. Just imagine the voyageurs back there, in the 1790s coming across in a canoe, bringing their supplies and then making their way west. It's a real touch of history.
Well, that's going to do it for this latest Lake Superior podcast. We appreciate you joining us for the ride here, or perhaps maybe the canoe out there along the way. And if you have an idea or something, certainly send it to us through the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation. You can catch us on various social media, Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. It's all out there. And we will be back sometime soon with another Lake Superior podcast. I'm Walt Lindala.
I'm Frida Waara. Thanks for listening. The National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation, NPLSF, is the only official nonprofit 501c3 fundraising partner of the National Park Service for all 5 U.S. national park sites on Lake Superior.
To learn more about NPLSF projects and programs, you can visit the website at nplsf.org or friend them on Facebook.
I'm Frida Waara.
And I'm Walt Lindala. Thanks for listening to the Lake Superior Podcast.
This podcast made possible with the support of the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation and Media Brew Communications.
This episode brought to you by Cafe Imports, Minneapolis-based importers of fine specialty green coffees. Independently owned and operated since 1993, Cafe Imports has been dedicated to decreasing its impact on the earth through renewable energy, carbon neutrality, and by supporting conservational efforts in places where quality coffee is grown and also where quality coffee is consumed. Where does your coffee come from?
And by the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation. As a nonprofit, we rely on support from listeners like you. If you like what you hear, please consider a donation. To learn more and make a gift, visit us at www.gosuperior.org.